Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Shenanigans Show. As you can tell from the title of this video, this is a bookshelf reorganization video specifically for June, and it's a slight book unhaul. A small number of books that I just feel like either I'm not going to pick up, either to read or reread. I'm not going to pick them up or pick them up again, or these books I'm just no longer interested in and freeing up some more space. I know I have some space here on these shelves, and there's a little bit of space where this book is. There is some space on some of my shelves for more books, but I just wanted to be able to clear up a little bit more space just for the sake of having more space for when more books come in. And as I said, a lot of the books that I'm unhauling, it's a small number, but a majority of them, as I said, are books that I'm just no longer interested in picking up. And I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit before I get into this. And before getting into this, I did kind of want to talk about the whole bookworm versus book dragon discussion. For some reason, I was having a little bit of trouble saying book dragon. I'm still feeling like I'm going to trip over saying that. But I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like those two are so distinctive. And yes, there are people who are either bookworms or book dragons, but I feel like that's like too black and white. And I know quite a few people have thrown in bookworm, WYRM versus WORM, and bookworm, WYRM, is kind of in between bookworm ORM and book dragon, where bookworms WYRM, they are both collecting books and reading them. I feel like that's always where I've kind of fit, even before that term kind of started coming into play within the bookish community. But even then, I feel like even the inclusion of that term, I feel like it's still too black and white and not enough gray area, where I feel like a lot of people coming into the bookish community feel like they have to be one or the other. They have to be only collecting books or only reading books, and that's just not the case, because I feel like we all go through phases with our reading lives that we don't talk about a lot. We all go through phases where we're not reading as much, mainly buying books, collecting more books, being more so book dragon, and then we go through a phase of reading everything and anything we possibly can, being more of a bookworm, ORM, and then we also have the phase of doing both roughly 50-50, buying, collecting, and then reading. And I feel like because of the bookworm versus book dragon discussion and how it's been so prevalent within the bookish community for so many years, I feel like people coming into the community who have just started reading or are getting back into reading and reading consistently, I feel like a lot of people feel like they have to just buy books, even if they're more of a bookworm. They feel like they have to be continuously buying books and have 500 plus books to be considered a reader, to be considered a bookworm, and to be considered a part of the bookish community. No matter if you consider yourself a bookworm, ORM, a bookworm, WYRM, or a book dragon, like you just have to constantly be buying books and be having so many bookshelves and so many books, even with a limited amount of space. It's something I've been trying to do this year, specifically 2024. I've been actively trying to do this, borrowing books and reading books before I go out and buy them, because I want to try reading more and seeing if I like the book before I buy it. Because when I buy books, I'm really going into the mentality of, will I like this book? Do I already like this author? And is this a genre I normally gravitate to and like? So that's my mentality, kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit before getting into my bookshelf reorganization and unhaul. Honestly, if you are getting into the reading community, either being completely new to it or having taken a break and you're getting back into it and getting back into reading, or getting into reading and doing it consistently, please do not feel pressured to be buying books consistently and constantly buying books and constantly having to haul books, because at the end of the day, you want your physical books, at least your physical shelves, to be representative of your tastes and your likes and what you loved in books and what you love in books. And as you get older, grow up more, tastes vary, tastes change. Yes, some interests may stay the same, but interests and preferences in books and genres are likely to change as you grow older. But I feel like your bookshelves, your physical bookshelves especially, because those are what people are seeing and what you're actively seeing on a day-to-day basis, your physical bookshelf should embody what you find interesting at any given moment. Yes, unread books can do that, like books you're buying within that genre that you like. Unread books can do that. But anyway, with all that said, let's get into the bookshelf reorganization. And I will talk about the books I'm hauling at the end of this video, as well as kind of talk about how I went about this bookshelf reorganization. Right now, I have a slight plan, but I haven't fully decided if that's what I'm going with, so we're just gonna go with it and wing it, basically. Okay, I have two stacks here behind me of what I am hauling, and before I get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I organize my books. You can see quite a few of them here. A lot of them are my Book of the Month books, and then this is one of my leather bounds because the shelf underneath that is my leather bound books, or like the row of 4 shelves is leather bound, and then the very bottom shelf is my historical nonfiction books and biographies and autobiographies. So that's the way this is organized. There is this one shelf on the top here that has a couple of books, the Book of the Month books, as with the leather bound edition books that I have, and my historical nonfiction books and autobiographies and biographies. It's organized by alphabetical order. And then for the books on my main bookshelf, it's the Lord of the Rings shelf on the very top. And I just decided to have all of the spines facing out instead of like stacked and then stacked forward. I don't know what that's called, but when you have like one book in front of another in front of another, but it's not like stacked on there. Yeah, stacked forward. The second shelf is my manga. The third shelf is paperbacks, and it's basically organized by heights. After that are my Disney hardcovers, so the Disney Twisted Tales and then the Bravely book by Maggie Stiefvater, which is not a Disney Twisted Tale, but it's still a Disney book, so I have it with my other Disney books. The fourth, the fourth shelf is my other hardcover books, as well as some of my special edition books or books from my childhood. So that was the way I organized it, mostly by height. Okay, I did have to shuffle these books around a little bit so that they didn't fall as I was pulling them off the stacks and then talking about them. But for the books I'm unhauling, I'm going to be talking about them in order of why I'm getting rid of them. Most of them are books that I'm just not going to pick up again, but it's kind of like for different sub reasons, so to say. So these first two books on top, it's The Treasury of Egyptian Mythology and then The Treasury of Greek Mythology, both by Donna Jo Napoli and then illustrated by Christina Belli. I really love the artwork, but they're so big, which is partially why I hadn't been picking them up, and they're kind of heavy. The covers are dense, which is why I wasn't really picking them up. But I do really love these books, and I really loved the artwork, still do. It was kind of ancient Egyptian mythology, not this book specifically, but just in general, that got me into history and Egyptology specifically. A large part of the reason I was holding on to these was like, oh, maybe my future kid would want to read these, because I can 100% see myself having kids. But I was watching, I think it was Books with Emily Fox, one of her videos, or someone else's video, where they were doing an unhaul and like kind of talking about something similar, where it's like, oh, my future kid might want to read this. And it's like, even if that's the case, like they'll probably, like any future kids that I have, even if they're interested in this, it's like, it's not going to hurt to buy this again if they are interested in this. Part of me just doesn't want to be carrying these around to each place if and when I move. I don't want to be carrying these around to each place that I move or have them in storage. And so it's just like, I'd rather them go to a home where they'll be appreciated, and just buy it again if I feel like I want them again, or if and when I have kids, if my kids want them. If anything, it'll help the author. These ones kind of hurt. So the next two books are Mythology, and it's like, whenever I've talked about these, I've always said like, oh, it's by the Kindle Press, because like I never really knew who the actual authors of these books were. Like this one was Mythology, where's the freaking title page? These ones are 100% kids books. And then this one really hurts. This one's Egyptology. This book specifically was the one that got me into ancient Egypt and Egyptology and Egyptian mythology. And I talk about this so much, and partly it was sentimental reasons why I was holding on to it because of that. And also partly, like, with this one too, and with those two books, I was like, oh, what if my future kids want to read these? It's like, again, it's a situation where I'm sure I can buy it secondhand somewhere, but it's like, again, that situation of like, do I want to be carrying these around from place to place just for the potential idea of having kids who will be interested in these? Long and short of it is no. There is like the ideally yes thinking, but it's like, at the end of the day, the long and short of it is no, I kind of don't want to do that. I am showing these books two at a time because they are kind of big and similar reasons. So this is How to Find Fairies. Again, I don't know who the author is. And this is a pop-up book. Supposedly research conducted by Cindy Mary Barker. And then that one had like, you can see it changing in this. And then this one was Fairyopolis, a Flower Fairies journal. These ones hurt a little bit too because it's like, growing up, I loved fairies and I loved looking at fairy pictures and figuring out how to try to find fairies. So these two do kind of hurt. Again, a situation of, I don't really like, I have like the ideal version of why to hold on to it, the ideal reasoning. But at the end of the day, again, long and short of it is kind of don't want to hold on to it. And I just have to let go. As Marie Kondo would say, these don't spark joy anymore. They spark nostalgic joy, but like they don't really spark joy anymore. Okay, next up is the Arabian Nights translated by Sir Richard Burton. And this is a really pretty cover, and like I am kind of bummed about having to get rid of this, but it's like, unlike with my other leather-bound editions that I have, it's like I'm picking those ones up more and looking at them more, whereas with this one I just wasn't. And this book had been in a maybe I'll unhaul this section of my bookshelves. Like I do try to have like at least one space dedicated to books I'm not sure about unhauling. And after a little while I just decided like I need to get rid of it because I'm not picking it up, I'm not really looking through it. And again, I can always buy it again. Next up is The Good Left Undone by Adriana Trigiani, and this was a historical fiction, and it does sound interesting, but it's like I have not touched it since it came in my book of the month box. Like this is like the second time I'm touching it. I moved it to my maybe section. This is the third time I'm really holding it. Second time I'm really holding it, and then third time I'm really touching it and moving it around. Again, ideally I would like to read it, but it's like I'm not going to. And it can be in a home where someone will read it and enjoy it and love it, so bye bye. And then next up is The Adventures of Amina al-Sirhaki. I think this is becoming a series. I enjoyed this book, but I just didn't really enjoy it enough to really be picking it up again and looking through it, and I wasn't really finding a lot of joy in seeing it on my bookshelves. Yes, there is the joy of seeing books on your bookshelves, but it was just like, seeing it. So, and the next up is Starling House. I did read this, I just don't remember too much about it, and it was another book where I was kind of like, again. So, and then the next book is The Kingdom of Sweets by Erica Johansson, and this is kind of like a dark nutcracker retelling. Again, I don't remember too much about it, and I wasn't really finding myself picking it up again or thinking about it a whole lot. And then the second to last book is Ariadne by Jennifer Saints. Ideally, I did enjoy it, I did like it, but it just felt kind of flat for me from what I was expecting, especially after reading Clytemnestra, and it didn't really wow me either, so it's just like, it can go to someone else's home, someone else's bookshelf who will enjoy it more. So all of these books will be going to like Goodwill or Salvation Army or whatever donation place I can get to quickest and soonest. But this last book that I'm unhauling will be a present for a friend, and that is Gwen and Art Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher. I was interested in this, but I found myself not really picking it up, and then over time I just lost interest in it. It was a very momentary interest when I saw it. I do like that there is representation with this. At the end of the day, as I said, it was very momentary interest, and I just don't see myself picking it up. So this is going to a friend who said that she was interested in it, and she will most likely read it. I don't know when, but I need water. But that was my bookshelf reorganization and book unhaul for June 2024. I don't know when I'll be doing this again, just because I want to settle in with the way my books are currently organized. I might do some little unhauls between now and whenever my next one is, or my next organization is. But for right now, this is where we're at, and I'm happy. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.